Hello friends and welcome back to another video. This video is divided into two parts. The first part is the unboxing of the 5 orchids which I ordered online from the website Pots and Petals, and in the second part I'll show you how you can DIY some very easy containers for keeping these orchids. As I'm unboxing, let me tell you that the delivery charges were also very nominal. I only paid ₹240 for these 5 orchids, and that too it was delivered through DTDC. When I opened the parcel, I could see that the plants had been carefully cushioned by these newspapers and the plants had not been damaged at all. Upon the first glance, the plants looked really healthy and they were of a good size. Even the smallest plant was pretty much large. They had neatly packed the plants and each and every plant was tagged by the name, and the names coincided with the plants which I had ordered, and in 1 year's time when they bloom I can be sure of what I have ordered, whether I have got those same colors or not. But my friend had ordered this plant before and she told that what she had ordered, the plants had bloomed accordingly. So I'm pretty sure that these are the exact plants which I have ordered online. These were the 5 orchids which I had ordered. 3 of them were really tall and 2 were a little smaller, but they were still of a larger size than what they had showed on the website. So I am pretty much happy with this purchase. Over here you can see that even the smallest plant is around 5 inches tall, so that's a good size. The leaves of these orchids were really nice and green, but the roots had dried out a little. The roots had dried out because the media was dry, but I'm pretty sure once I put it in water, most of the roots will become fresh again. So let us do the next step. Over here you can see how the roots are looking thin and papery. Some of them might not make it, but I'm pretty sure most of them will be reviving back. Even though the roots were dry, I can tell by looking at the roots that the orchid was really healthy because it had a good root system. So now let me do the next step. Just one orchid had this yellowed leaf, the rest all were perfect. To revive the orchids, I am going to dip the root along with the media in a container with water, and I am going to leave it like this for at least 15 to 20 minutes so that the media absorbs the water and the roots which are still alive, they become rehydrated and nice looking. So in this manner, one by one, I put all the 5 orchids in this container having water, and I allowed it to sit in this water for at least 15-20 minutes till I felt that the media had become fully saturated with water. You just have to be careful of one thing, that when you're putting the orchids in the water, make sure that only the roots and the media get wet and not the part of the plant. Because if you put water in between the leaves and if the water stays over there, it might rot the plant. So that is a thing that you have to avoid. And now here is the result. You can see how well the roots are looking now. They have regained their original freshness, and so I'm pretty sure the orchids will do really nice. Now the roots have also revived quite nicely. Since I had received this package 2 days before time, I was not prepared for it actually. So I simply revived the plant and I placed it back in the carton, and I started preparing for its container where I can plant it later on. So first of all, I removed all the plants and I kept it back in the carton once it had revived, because I cannot leave it in the water for long. And these are the happy orchids after getting their drink of water. Now let's see how we can create some easy DIY containers for planting these orchids. So I went in my kitchen to find some empty containers, and these were some plastic containers which were empty, so I washed them thoroughly. And these are some old ghee containers. I had 5 of them, and I made some longitudinal lines as I'm showing over here. I in fact created 4 lines on the 4 sides of the container, because orchid plants need a good ventilated container. So this is a must, because the aerial roots need to come out from the container to absorb the moisture from the atmosphere. So this is a must, that the container should have some lateral slits or some lateral holes. So in this manner I simply drew the slits and later on I am going to cut them off. Also in the bottom of the container I am going to create some circular holes as so. So the next step was to cut out these longitudinal slits, and for this I am going to use this blade. You can also use a heated soldering iron if you have one, that would make things easier. But since I don't have it, I have to use this blade to cut off the container. So one by one I cut off all the slits as I am showing over here, and I also created some holes on the bottom of the container. Once all these slits are made, the next step would be, if you are using a blade, to make the sides of these slits a little bit less sharp. So for that I am going to use this incense stick and I am going to burn off the edges which I have just cut because they are very much sharp. I might cut my finger or the orchid roots might get damaged. So I am going to just move the incense stick all around to make the sharpened edges a little bit more blunt. So in this manner I am going to do this on all the containers, all 5 of the containers, and on each of the cuts which I have made. And also I have created some holes on the lower part of the container for drainage, which is a must. Initially I had decided that apart from these longitudinal slits I'll also be creating some round holes in between. But because it took me a lot of time to create these 5 containers, I decided to discard that idea and I didn't make any more holes. For the time being, these containers will be perfect. And once the orchids take root and they grow well, then I might go to the market or might purchase some really good orchid containers depending upon the growth of the orchid, how well they are growing. So for the time being, this is the DIY container which I'll be using to plant my orchids. You can use the cap of the container as the stand if you want, and if you want you can fill the cap with water to create a humid atmosphere for the orchid roots to go down. So that can also be used. One more thing that I did was I created a tiny hole just next to one of the longitudinal slits on all 5 of the containers, where I am going to remove the tag from each of the plant and I am going to put that tag over there so that I know which orchid is supposed to be which one. Those tags were attached by wires, so I can use the same thing for my planter. There will be a part 2 of this video because over here I cannot put in everything as the video was getting too long, but this is how the orchids look after I have repotted them. In part 2 of this video I'll show you how I created the potting mix. This is all I have for now. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and thanks for watching.